Breaking news this December 31st, 2025. We are getting a final, stark picture of Russia's huge losses in Pokrovsk.
That's right. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine has released updated statistics adjusting the total losses based on a steady stream of new intelligence.
And this data closes out the year with a really, really brutal look at this war of attrition. First, a quick message.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Aria.
Welcome to a new Deep Dive by Defense Report, where we give you sharp, no-nonsense breakdowns of global defense news.
And today we are covering the shocking true cost of Russia's winter offensive.
And it's focused squarely on the city of Pokrovsk, which has, it's really become the epicenter of this brutal conflict.
This deep dive is for you. If you need to cut through the noise, the propaganda, and understand the operational realities shaping this war as we head into 2026.
We're going to unpack these staggering numbers from the General Staff's report. But before we get into the big totals, what is the single most important takeaway from all this data?
I think the single most critical finding for 2025 is it's a sustainability crisis, a profound one. We're seeing this irreversible strategic imbalance.
An imbalance? How so?
Russia's combat losses for this year are now estimated to be over 410,000 personnel.
410,000?
Yeah. And that means, attrition is now officially outpacing their annual recruitment. They simply cannot replace their losses fast enough anymore.
That alone that's a game changer. But the story on the ground gets even stranger,
It
right?
really does. Because the pressure, their logistics are collapsing, they're constantly losing trucks and transports to drones, so they're resorting to tactics that sound like they're from a history book.
You're talking about the cavalry?
I am. We have documented proof of Russian forces using horses and donkeys on the front line to move ammunition. Actual cavalry in a 21st century war.
Unbelievable. And all of this is happening while the Kremlin is trying to paint a very different picture.
Absolutely. They're trying to project strength, for diplomatic talks. We're going to break down their claims of seizing over 700 square kilometers this month.
And compare it to the reality.
Exactly. But the reality is a glacial advance, maybe 14 square kilometers a day. So stick with us. You need to see how these numbers from one city, Pokrovsk, are shaping Russia's entire global strategy.
Okay, so let's establish the facts on the ground. We have the final updated figures for the year ending December 31st. Why are these numbers so striking?
Well, it's because they crystallize the total cost. After almost 3 years, the cumulative Russian casualties, according to the Ukrainian General Staff, are now over 1.2 million personnel.
1.2 million. Just to clarify for our listeners, that's not just killed in action, right?
That's a great question. No, it's the total figure killed in action, wounded in action, and captured. It's the total number of personnel taken off the battlefield. The number is it's functionally catastrophic.
And then there's the equipment. People always focus on tanks and artillery.
Of course. And those figures are massive. Almost 11,500 tanks and over 35,000 artillery systems gone. But if you really want to see where Ukraine is succeeding, you have to look at logistics.
Okay.
Over 72,000 logistics vehicles destroyed. 72,000.
Wait, 72,000? That's way more than their tanks and artillery combined. Why is that number so important?
Because war is logistics. It's the ultimate indicator of Ukrainian FPV drone and precision strike success. A tank without fuel or ammo is just a metal box.
Right. So by hitting the supply chain,
You paralyze the entire fighting force. This number, 72,000, is the direct cause of the tactical failures and the horses we're about to discuss.
And I guess the drone war cuts both ways. The attrition numbers for UAVs must be huge too.
They are. Nearly 98,000, let me get the exact number, 97,684 operational tactical UAVs destroyed since the war began.
Almost 100,000 drones. It just makes the battlefield transparent
Right.
and incredibly lethal.
Exactly. And Pokrovsk is the center of gravity for all of this. On December 30th alone, there were 142 combat engagements across the front. 28 of them, nearly 20%, were right there in that one sector.
And we have even more specific data from the units on that line, don't we?
We do. The 7th Rapid Response Corps gave us a snapshot for December. In just that 1 month, in that single sector, they eliminated over 1,050 occupiers.
And the drone numbers.
Even more telling. In that same period, they shot down or forced down 3,559 Russian UAVs. This isn't just a ground war. It's an intensely teleoperated battle for battlefield vision.
So those 72,000 destroyed trucks you mentioned, that's not just a statistic on a chart. It has real-world consequences.
It dictates everything. The density of Ukrainian FPV drones, especially along key roads like the T-0518 highway, makes any kind of large-scale mechanized movement almost suicidal.
I read reports of up to 350 FPV drones a day just on that one highway. It's hard to even imagine that.
It is. And it explains these catastrophic failures we keep seeing, like that reduced battalion mechanized assault towards Dobrapilya on December 22nd.
What happened there?
It was a total disaster, a supposedly coordinated armored push that was just annihilated.
Mm.
They lost 10 out of their 11 all-terrain vehicles in one go.
And this failure, it caused a lot of noise online, even among pro-Russian bloggers.
It did, because it showed the command was just ignoring the reality on the ground.
Yeah.
The mill bloggers were openly saying the leadership was leading troops to deadly consequences, pointing out that even a heavily armored vehicle can't survive hit after hit from these drones.
So the trust between the commanders and the frontline troops is breaking down.
It seems to be.
Yeah.
And that's where the story takes its turn from tactical failure to, well, to sheer absurdity, the logistics problem.
Right, the horses and donkeys. It's just jaw-dropping.
It is. We have OSINT-confirmed video from December 22nd showing Russian soldiers using horses for transport near Pokrovsk, and other reports mention them being issued donkeys to haul ammo on the Oleksandrivka axis.
In a war with hypersonic missiles and satellites, they're using pack animals. It's a perfect symbol of strategic failure.
It's a stunning indictment of their ability to wage modern war. And it's a real problem when a lieutenant general, Viktor Sobolev, actually comes out and defends it, saying any delivery method is acceptable.
If you can't protect a truck, you use a donkey. It's as simple as that.
Precisely. And that desperation feeds right into how they use their soldiers, this meat grinder tactic.
Because the big armored assaults don't work.
They don't. So they shift to these small infiltration groups, just one or two guys on foot, hoping a drone won't spot them. And the quality of these troops is shockingly low. We keep hearing that they send the sick and wounded soldiers forward first.
As bait.
Essentially, yes, as disposable bait to draw Ukrainian fire so that maybe a slightly better equipped group behind them has a chance to move up a few meters.
It's just horrific. And that kind of attrition must be taking a toll, even on their best units.
It is. The 155th Naval Infantry Brigade, a supposedly elite unit from the Pacific Fleet, was reportedly pulled from the Pokrovsk sector. The reason? It was no longer combat effective due to such heavy casualties. The meat grinder is consuming everyone.
So, if the tactics on the ground are this desperate, what does it all mean for the big picture, for the strategy?
It means Russia is facing a huge sustainability crisis. And this crisis is going to define the entire conflict in 2026.
Let's connect it back to the numbers. You said they met their recruitment goal for 2025, about 400,000 troops.
They did, yes. Between 403 and 406,000. If you only look at that number, it sounds like they're doing fine.
But the other side of the ledger is the attrition, the losses.
And that's the critical part. Their total combat losses for 2025 are estimated at 410,000 or more. The war is running a personnel deficit.
They're losing more than they're bringing in.
Exactly. And that deficit means they can't build up a proper strategic reserve. They can't launch a new major offensive. Instead, they're constantly having to activate their reserves just to plug gaps and sustain these grinding attacks in Pokrovsk.
And that leaves them vulnerable elsewhere.
It does. We're seeing successful Ukrainian counterattacks in places like Kupiansk and Dobrapilya, precisely because Russia has to pull its reserves to feed the grinder in the east.
And the Kremlin's response to this manpower shortage, it's pretty telling.
It's very telling. We're seeing a clear shift away from trying to entice volunteers with money towards compulsory service. On December 30th, Putin signed a decree to start deploying active reservists to training camps in 2026.
That sounds like a politically risky move.
It is. It signals that involuntary call-ups are likely coming. The bonus money isn't working fast enough to offset the casualties anymore. They're about to force the cost of this war onto a much wider segment of their population.
So the reality on the ground is grim for Russia. Manpower deficits, logistical collapse. And yet, the narrative coming out of the Kremlin is the complete opposite.
It's a massive information warfare campaign. They're trying to create this false impression that Ukraine is collapsing, right when there's debate about Western support.
We saw this with Chief of the General Staff Gerasimov's big presentation to Putin.
Exactly. Gerasimov claimed they seized over 700 square kilometers and 32 settlements in December. The goal is to go into any potential talks looking like they have the upper hand.
But the independent analysis tells a different story.
A much different story.
Yeah.
Open source assessments show they maybe took 480 square kilometers and 23 settlements,
So he's exaggerating by about 30%.
at least.
Yeah.
And when you zoom out, the pace of their advance is,
Huh.
well, it's a slow walk. They're averaging about 14.4 square kilometers a day across the entire front.
And at that rate, I mean, to take all the territory they claim they've annexed.
It would take them until about April 2029. We are talking years of this same brutal, grinding war just to meet their stated political goals.
And that's assuming they can even break through the main defensive lines.
Right. That projection doesn't even account for Ukraine's fortress belt. The big cities, Kostiantynivka, Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, are all heavily fortified. Russia has shown the Bureau ability to conduct the kind of complex operation needed to take a city like that.
Their claim about controlling half of Kostiantynivka, for instance.
Pure fiction. The evidence suggests they have a presence in maybe 5% of the city. They're making slow, costly gains in small villages, not breaking Ukraine's defensive backbone.
And as this grinding fight moves into more populated areas like Pokrovsk, the human cost, it goes beyond just the soldiers.
It does. Tragically, as unit discipline breaks down under this intense pressure, we see more and more reports of war crimes. We have to acknowledge the reports of the execution of 2 Ukrainian POWs in Chakov and horrific accounts from Pokrovsk of Russian servicemen murdering 7 civilians in one house and assaulting another. It's the grim reality of this kind of warfare.
So, connecting all these pieces, the tactical failures in Pokrovsk, the manpower crisis, how does this link to the wider strategic picture in Europe?
They're intrinsically linked. Because Russia can't achieve a decisive victory on the battlefield, the Kremlin is shifting its focus. It's turning to strategic pressure and information conditioning to try and destabilize Europe.
We're seeing that with their long-range strikes.
Correct. They keep extending the range of their drones and missiles, hitting targets deep in Ukraine, like that forward base 150 kilometers from the border in Poltava. It's a constant reminder that Ukraine urgently needs more traditional air defense systems to protect its rear areas.
And this pressure campaign now seems to be extending beyond Ukraine. There's talk of phase 0 aggression against NATO.
That's what some analysts are calling it. It's the informational and psychological prep phase for potential future conflict. Lots of aggressive probing, testing defenses.
Like those strange balloon incidents on the Polish border.
Exactly. Dozens of Belarusian smuggling balloons flying into Polish airspace, carrying cigarettes, but also GPS trackers. That's not just smuggling. That's a test of Polish air defense response times, almost certainly on behalf of Russia.
And we saw Polish jets intercepting a Russian recon plane as well.
Yes, it's a pattern of persistent, low-level testing. And when you add in the constant messaging about deploying the Oreshnik missile system to Belarus, the goal is clear. Increase pressure on the entire region and project a threat far beyond the front lines in Ukraine.
So to wrap this all up for you, Russia is paying an absolutely unsustainable price in Pokrovsk. Total losses are outpacing recruitment, logistics are failing to the point of using 19th century methods, and their actual gains are a fraction of what they claim.
The reality on the battlefield simply does not support the triumphant narrative coming from the Kremlin. The war is costing them far more than they can sustain in the long run.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to consider. The Kremlin is doubling down on its most extreme demands from back in 2022, total neutrality demilitarization of Ukraine. They're using any pretext, like that alleged drone strike on Putin's residence, to reject any kind of talks.
So the question for 2026 is this. Given the massive real-world costs we've just laid out, what will it actually take domestically inside Russia or internationally to finally break this cycle of attrition and force Moscow to confront the true strategic consequences of this war?
A question that will define the year ahead. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.